Give me the name of one person who doesn't want to be successful, and I'll as well shave my hair. Why? Because inherently so, all of us want to be successful. Even the Buddha that stays in the forest without eating, without light, without connection to the world, is still trying to achieve some sort of success according to his belief system. We all want success. We do everything or almost everything for growth, for increase, for success. We yearn for it. However, when it comes to uncovering this journey or finding the answer to this question of what best strategies can we use, what can we do to actually become successful in time, we almost always end up on having to ask this other question. How can we maximize our life? How can we maximize our time, our weeks, our days, our hours? It always comes back to how can we maximize our time. And I have one very great answer for you today, and it is information. Information. I learned it the hard way that information is the only thing that can make or break a man. It's all it is. Information. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. How to build up success or maximize your time and life pertaining to information. So let's dive. Welcome to Leading with Glory. My name is Glory, and it's my pleasure having you here. This is a podcast where young people are trained to be leaders that God can trust and that men will want to follow. So let's go into the topic of the day. As I said, how to gain success pertaining to information. There are 3 things you need to do if you want to be successful. These are the 3 basic things I've learned and I've written down. You need to unlearn, you need to learn, and you need to relearn. Unlearn, learn, and relearn. And I'm going to start from number 1, unlearn. What does it mean to unlearn, and why do you need to unlearn? Because there are so many things you believe that are not right. They are wrong, and they are sponsoring what you do. They are sponsoring the way you act, and they are sponsoring the failures you see. Unlearn. If I ask you now, why do you believe this? Why do you think you're a failure? Why do you want to kill yourself? Why do you feel like the person next door is accomplishing more in life than you? The best answer you can give me is that's the information I've gotten. Because everything you do, the way you feel, the way you act, everything is sponsored by some sort of information that you have. And if it is wrong, you need to unlearn it. Else, it will cause catastrophe in your life. So the first thing I will say is to unlearn. Now you may ask me, how do you actually unlearn? There are 2 things you do to unlearn. The first thing is to identify, and the second thing is to become resolute and take a resolution to actually unlearn these things. What is the process of identifying the wrong information you've gotten? I drew a map, and unfortunately I can't share it, but what I thought of was the first thing that is important is your belief system. Your belief systems are the core things you believe, the core things you have your faith in, the things you believe that cannot be broken, that cannot be passed by, those things that you are really strict on your belief system. It can be based on culture, it can be based on religion, it can be based on your environment, it can be based on other sources, but your belief system is the first thing. And whatever your belief system is, it will actually influence your mindset. Your mindset is influenced by your belief system, whether you like it or not. And your mindset, in its turn, influences your actions. So your belief system influences your mindset, and your mindset influences your actions. Therefore, all of these things is interconnected. If you fail in having a good belief system, you will fail in having the right mindset. And if your mindset is wrong, it doesn't matter how much you try, your actions will only reflect that bias and failure mentality. So the first thing in identifying what wrong information is to question your belief system. Question those deep things. What are those deep things that you actually believe in? And I have a series of questions to help you do that. The first thing you should ask yourself is where, then what, then who, then why. Where, then what, then who, then why. And I'll go very briefly on all of these things. What is where? The first question you want to ask yourself is, where do I get my information? Where do I get the things I believe in? Do you get most of your information from social media accounts, social media influencers and all? And that is not bad, provided you are vetting the information. But where you want to first of all map out, where do you get your information? Social media, podcast, the Bible, books, on the streets, your neighbor that's gossiping, on the news. Where do you get your information? That's very important, because if the source of your information is not accurate, is not viable, is not creditable, then the amount of information and the type of information you have is most likely wrong, and therefore leading to some failures. The second thing, as I said, is what. What is the core message? Sometimes you can be scrolling on social media and you stumble on a good account, and if you are stumbling on this right here, this is a good account, and it's a good person talking, and they are spilling the truth, and they are spilling right information. But on another day, you can stumble on an account that is spilling out nonsense. The most important thing there is, what are you listening to? What is the core message of the information you've gotten? Is the core message that you are ugly because you don't have the desirable shape? Is the core message that you are empowered and therefore you are motivated and can do whatever? What is the core message? The core message is very important. After you've gotten the core message, you can actually determine whether it's right or wrong based on the standards you have. In my own life, the standard is the Bible. In my own life, the standard also can be stats, very scientific proven things. As of course, under the Bible is final authority. But when I get an information, no matter who it comes from or where the source is, I first of all vet it. What is the content? And does it match the standard of what the Bible says? And does it match the standard of what stats says? The third thing you need to ask yourself, of course, is who? Who are you listening to? Are you listening to mediocres? Because believe me, if you listen to mediocres, you end up being a mediocre. There is nothing you can do about it. Who you listen to determines who you become. That's clear and that's simple. You listen to mediocres, ultimately you become a mediocre. You become a mediocre first in your actions or in your belief system, then in your mindset, then it will follow in your actions. If you listen to people of excellency, your belief system will change to kind of adapt and accept the reality of excellence. Then your mindset will shift from a mindset of mediocre to actually a mindset of excellency, and then it will show in your actions. Who do you listen to? I also like to ask myself this question: whose report will I believe? Whose report? You are coming to tell me a very bad news. You're coming to tell me that the job market is the worst ever. And yes, it's the truth that the job market is not the best. Then you go ahead and say, I doubt we will get a job. I might look at you and I might smile, I might nod my head, but believe me, right in my heart, I know I will get a job. I know no matter what happens, favor will speak for me. Because at the end of the day, whose report do I believe? So that's the third question, who? And the final question is why? Why do you believe what you believe? Go back in those belief systems, strong things. Sometimes the information we have actually becomes strongholds because we never ask ourselves the question of why. Why do you deeply believe in this that you are about to kill yourself for it? Why do you deeply believe that you are a non-entity? That you cannot amount to anything? Why do you deeply believe that? Go back. Is it based on trauma? What happened? Ask yourself why. Why is it that you cannot act a different way? They've cautioned you about this character. They've told you it's not the... Why do you keep doing it? Why? Ask yourself those questions. Don't just put culpability on you. Don't just feel like, oh, I'm the worst person. No, let's think critically. Ask yourself why. Because it's important to know why you believe in a belief system. By knowing your why, you actually get a conviction. And conviction is more important, because when you are actually convinced to the core about something, knowing why you believe in it, you can endure anything to make it right and to honor that belief. So again, I'll recap. The first thing in unlearning is to identifying your belief system, your mindset, and your actions. And in identifying, you need to ask yourself 4 questions. Where do I get my information? What is the core message of those information? Then whose report do I want to listen to? And lastly, why do I believe in it? After you've identified the core issues, after you've identified those belief systems, those character traits, those actions or mindsets you need to change, the next thing is to be resolute to change them. That's number 2. Make the change happen. Make and write down practical habits and practical ways in which you make the change happen, in which you unlearn. There is something that I really love as a visualization. If you visualize a cup of dirty water, if you have clean water and you keep pouring it in, at some point the glass of very ugly looking and very bad filtered water will actually become clean. Why? Because you fed it with good information over time and over time. Nature hates void. That's something I've learned when I was very little, maybe 9. And the truth is, it is the truth. So if you want to unlearn, the best way in doing it is to feed yourself with right information. The more you pour in good information, the more the bad information comes out. What are the risks of bad information? Bad information, again, I want to say it, sponsor wrong belief systems. And wrong belief systems sponsor bad mindset. And let me tell you, if you give a ton of money to someone who has a poverty mindset, they can never be rich. They will squander all the money and go back into poverty. That's why the main thing we're trying to solve, I'm trying to address, are not the actions. It's the mindset, and the mindset comes from the belief system. So unlearning those things, those information that are not right, unlearning them actually helps you to have a right belief system, then a right mindset, and right mindset produce at the end of the day right actions. So I gave you the tip to unlearn, and let's move to number 2. The number 2 on the list on becoming successful is to learn. You will never be successful until you grow in capacity, and capacity is knowledge dependent. It is the right information you feed yourself that makes you successful. What's the difference between you and the highest investor in Bank of America, for example? They know things you don't know. They've acquired learning experience. They've acquired information based on books, based on experience, based on many other factors. And you don't have that information. That's why you're not expert in your field yet. What differentiates a entry-level position from a mid-level position? Information. You know what others don't know. They know what we don't know. So the second tip in becoming successful is learning. Learn as much as you can. There is no amount of knowledge that is too much, provided it is the right information at the right time. The right information at the right time. Now, I've tried listing many different sources of learning, and the first thing I'll really commend first is the Bible. The Bible have a lot of wisdom, a lot of secrets, a lot of beautiful advice that you can use actually to implement in your life. And I don't want to talk about the Bible here just as a religious fact. Even if you take it out of the context of Christianity, just as a mere book, which it is not, it is the word of God, the Bible still have a lot of wisdom to procure you with. A lot of wisdom. When you hear things like a little folding of arms and poverty will take you, you realize that, I cannot be lazy. So I would say the first thing is the Bible. The second thing, read books. books about very different topics. Read books about finance, about entrepreneurship, about business, about God, about relationships, about emotional intelligence, about your field. Read books. Why do I say read books? Because as you read a book, you tap and acquire the wisdom of someone who has spent way many years than you. If I read the book of someone that has been on earth for 80 years and has been in their field for 40 years, I am tapping into wisdom of 80 years. Why I am still 20. You get what I mean? It's like by reading books, you tap into wisdom that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten by age. So read books, read and listen to right podcasts. Good podcasts. There are very good podcasts out there. Find the right information. Find a way to feed yourself with the right information. And that is what I mean by learn. Learn also by experience. And when I say experience, it's not that you try something bad and no. That's not the type of experience I'm saying. Volunteer, for example. By volunteering, you are acquiring some knowledge. You are acquiring some information from people that have been in the field for a longer period of time. Intern somewhere. Try a job. Try doing something with your life. That is also learning. Use every opportunity you have to learn. The greatest minds and the most successful people are those that use even failure to learn. Everything should be a lesson for you. How the trees grow and then their leaves die and then they fall and then they grow back. That can be a lesson for someone. How somebody woke up and then they slept and they woke up again and they did nothing and they became poor. That can be a lesson. Or how someone did great. That can be a lesson. Everything can be a lesson to you if you open your eyes with the mindset to learn. With the mindset to learn. So that is it. And the third thing that very successful people do is they relearn. I know it seems like tautology, but it is actually very important. You think you know something until you are faced with a situation that reveals that that book you read, you really did not understand it. Or until you are faced with a situation that reveals to you how limited your information is. The fact that you read 2 books or 10 books on the subject doesn't mean that's all there is. And the fact that you even read those 10 books doesn't mean that you have understood what those 10 books meant. Do not confuse it. We read a book, we listen to a podcast, and we think we listened to it and we got everything. Until you listen back the second time and the third time and you spot things that the first time you were rushing, or the first time you didn't really see it, you approach it now with a different perspective. Learn and relearn. That's why the Bible says that let this book never depart from your heart. Let it never depart from your eyes. Why? Because you have to keep looking at it, reading it, and reading it, and reading it until the point that you actually understand it. Believe me, the first time you listen to this podcast, you are not going to actually get everything from it. Listening to it one time means that you got the big points. There are things that are very deep, very detailed. There are some phrases you might skip, but when you go and listen to it back the second time, the third time, the fourth time, that's when you're actually sure that you got the information right. And even then, a day will come when you need to relearn it. So I gave you the tips that I believe make successful people. They unlearn the wrong information, they learn the right information, and they relearn the right information. At the end of the day, it's all about information. How you feel is dependent on information. How you speak is a response to information. The anxiety you have is a response to a certain type of information. Why is it that a rich man's kid never worries about the food that they are eating tomorrow? Because they have that information at the back of their mind that daddy or mommy will provide. It means that even anxiety is programmed by some type of information that you have. So if you are looking at your life right now and it feels like it's not yielding to anything or it's not as good as you want it to be, invest in unlearning the wrong information, in learning the right information, and relearning that information until you catch the light in it. So this is the end of our series today at Leading with Glory. Remember, if you were blessed and if you learned, and I know you learned tons of things here, share it with a friend, like this, subscribe, put a comment. Those things do support us and make us know that you are seeing and you are growing. Again, this was Leading with Glory, a place where young leaders are made to be leaders that God can trust and that men will want to follow. Remember, you have one assignment this week. Unlearn one thing, learn something, and relearn an information that you think you had already learned. Have a great day. Over. So what can you do to actually bring in more success, to maximize